A mafia boss walked into an empty room for a secret deal. The guarantor turned out to be a woman with a scar on her hand. 3 armed men burst in to sabotage everything. She invented a fake council and stopped them with words alone. Let's go back a week. Enjoy. Tae-yul waits. The room is empty. Just 4 walls, a floor, and a ceiling. The light bulb on the ceiling flickers. He stands in the center, motionless. It's quiet. The only sound is his breathing. He came alone. It was required by the agreement. His people were waiting far away. He didn't like such situations. He didn't like not being in control of everything. He stroked the sleeve of his jacket. This calmed him down. He continued to wait. The door creaks. Tae-yul looks in. He's expecting a man, but a woman enters. Behind her is the familiar intermediary who arranged this meeting. The woman is Keisha. She's tall. She's dressed simply. Dark pants, a jacket. She walks in and immediately steps back to the wall. She doesn't look at Tae-yul. First, she looks around. She examines every corner, the door, the window. Only then does she look at him. Her face expresses nothing. No fear, no surprise. Nothing. The intermediary stands at the door. He's nervous. "Mr. Lee," he says, "everything is going according to plan. Your man is already acting. But, as agreed, we need guarantees." Tae-yul is silent. "This is Keisha." "Queens." The broker nods at the woman. "She's your security. As long as she's with you, you'll be fine. Your people and your partner's people are watching. If anyone breaks the agreement, something's guaranteed to happen. You understand?" Tae-yul understands. She's a living pawn, not a participant, but a pawn in the game. If his people deceive her, she will suffer. If they deceive him, the same will happen. Her safety depends on his. He looks at Keisha again. She doesn't look like a terrified hostage. She looks calm, too calm, as if that's how it should be. "Does she agree?" Tae-yul asks. "Yes," the intermediary says quickly. "She was hired. She knows what she's doing." Tae-yul waits for Keisha to say something. She looks at him, nods, just once, short and sweet. "Yes, I agree." Then she looks around the room again, looks at the door, at the window. Her eyes carefully study every detail. She's silent, but you can tell she's not just standing here. She's working, assessing how safe this place is, where she can hide, where danger might come from. Tae-yul watches her. He doesn't like it. Trusting a stranger? Foolish. But those are the rules of this game. And this woman, there's something in her calm that makes him cast aside his doubts. He, too, is silent. The room is quiet again. But this time, the silence is different. Now there are 2 of them. He is the one for whom this whole thing was started. She is his human shield. The game has begun. Tae-yul looks at the phone in his hand. The screen is dark. He knows the time has come. He swipes, unlocks, dials the number. It's short, pre-saved. The call lasts a ring and a half. They pick up right away. "Speak!" Tae-yul hears the voice of his man. "Fami." The voice is calm, businesslike. "Begin," says Tae-yul. Just one word. "Roger," replies Fami. And the connection is cut off. That's it. Now the process is underway. His men begin to act out there, on the street. Moving goods, checking routes, doing their part. Tae-yul lowers his phone. He puts it in his jacket pocket. Now he's here, in this empty room, and his will is at work elsewhere. The room becomes very quiet, eerily quiet. After the ringing, the silence seems even deeper. Tae-yul looks at Keisha. She's standing against the wall, barely moving. Her arms hang loosely at her sides. She's staring off into space, but he understands. She's not lost in thought. She's listening. She's listening to the silence with every fiber of her being. He listens too. He can't hear anything. No footsteps outside. No cars. Nothing. Just that annoying quiet hum in his ears that comes when everything is too quiet. He studies Keisha. He feels awkward staying silent. But there's nothing to talk about. She's a hired guarantor. He's a boss who's become dependent on this guarantor. He doesn't trust her. How can he trust a stranger in such a matter? She's calm, too calm. Her face is a stony mask. No anxiety, no impatience. She's simply waiting, as if she's waiting for a bus, not participating in a dangerous deal. Tae-yul notices her eyes begin to move again. Slowly, almost imperceptibly, she's examining not the room itself, but the joints, the place where the wall meets the floor, the corner near the ceiling. She looks at the door, studying not the door itself, but the crack beneath it. Then her gaze shifts to the small, dusty window near the ceiling. She squints, as if trying to see something outside, but it's useless. The glass is too dirty. Then she looks at the floor, not just looking, but studying. Her gaze glides over the concrete slabs, searching for cracks, unevenness. Tae-yul suddenly understands. She's not just standing there. She's analyzing the battlefield, looking for where she might trip if she has to move quickly, where she can place her foot without making a sound. She's looking for weak spots in this room, not to escape, but to defend herself. Her professional gaze makes him tense. It's not the look of a hostage. It's the look of a soldier, or a top-class security guard. He sees a thin white scar on her arm as she adjusts her sleeve for a second. Old, neat, not a scratch. The mark of something serious. This detail says more than any biography. She's been in trouble. Suddenly, a sound breaks the silence. It's not a distinct sound, not a knock, not a voice. It's as if something heavy, yet soft, fell somewhere far away, maybe on the floor above, or in the next building. The sound is muffled, but in the absolute silence, it seems very loud. Tae-yul freezes. His hand instinctively twitches toward his inside jacket pocket, but stops. He looks at the door. Keisha hears it too. Her head turns toward the door faster than he can blink. Her whole body instantly adjusts. She doesn't press herself against the wall. Instead, she takes a half step forward, pushing away from it. Her weight shifts to the balls of her feet. She's ready to move. Her hands are still free, but her fingers curl slightly, relaxed but ready to clench into a fist or do something else. She doesn't look at Tae-yul. She's completely focused on the door. Her eyes narrow. She listens, holding her breath. The silence returns. Nothing falls anymore. There are no footsteps, no running, no shouts. Only this strange, dull deafness that sounds and disappears. 10 seconds pass. 20. A minute. Keisha exhales slowly. Her shoulders drop a millimeter. She steps back, toward her wall, but her posture is no longer as relaxed. She no longer looks at the floor. Her gaze is fixed on the door. She's still wary, but the initial wave of tension has subsided. Tae-yul watches her. He saw her reaction. Instant, precise, without panic. She didn't scream, didn't ask, "What is this?" She simply assessed the threat and took the best position, between him and the door. She fulfilled her promise without even thinking. He feels a strange feeling. Not trust, not yet, but respect for her skills. That sound was most likely an accident. The old building, something fell. But her reaction showed that she was here for a reason. She was a professional, and as long as she was in this room, he might be safer than he thought. He looks away from her and also at the door. Now they are both silent, listening to a silence that no longer seems so empty. It now contains an echo of that sound, and the realization that beyond the door lies a large, unfamiliar, and possibly unfriendly world. And here they are, together, bound by one strange and fragile guarantee. Silence hangs in the room again after that strange sound, but now it's different, taut, like a string. Tae-yul looks at the door. Keisha stands sideways to him, her gaze still fixed on the source of the sound. She doesn't move for 5 seconds, 10. Then she slowly turns her head and looks at him, not directly, but as if through him, assessing his position in the room. Then she moves away from the wall, not toward Tae-yul, but toward the center of the room. Her steps are completely silent. She stops about a meter away from him, not in front of him, but slightly to the side. Then she turns. Now she's facing the door. Her back is almost in front of him. She takes a position, clear and distinct. If danger enters through that door, it will be between her and Tae-yul. This is the first action she takes, not as a static object, but as an active participant. She doesn't ask permission. She doesn't say a word. She simply does her job. Tae-yul looks at her back, at her tense but not stiff shoulders. He understands this language. It's the body language of a security guard. His sense of awkwardness gives way to mild irritation. His safety depends on this mute stranger, on how good she is at her job. He needs to understand who she is. Tae-yul asks quietly but clearly. His voice sounds sharper in the silence than he expected. Keisha doesn't turn around. She tilts her head slightly, indicating she's heard the question, but she doesn't answer. She continues to stare at the door. Her silence is like a wall. It says, "My identity doesn't matter. Only my function matters." "You were hired. By whom?" Tae-yul insists. He needs some kind of confirmation, a clue. Keisha slowly, almost imperceptibly, shakes her head from side to side. No, she won't answer. Her job is to provide assurance, not information. This silence angers him, but at the same time calms him. She's not lying. She's not making up a story. She's simply refusing to talk, apparently following her own rules. At that moment, Taeyul's phone vibrates in his jacket pocket. Briefly, twice. A beep. It's quiet, but it clicks as he pulls it out. Keisha glances over her shoulder at the phone in his hand for a split second, then looks ahead again. She's guarding him, but not spying on him. The external threat is what matters. Taeyul looks at the screen. A message from Fami. Just one line. First point. Interference. Awaiting instructions. A glitch. So something went wrong at the very first stage of the exchange. A minor hiccup or something more serious? The message is deliberately vague. Fami is cautious. But the very fact of a problem is a bad sign. The deal has only just begun, and already there's a glitch. Taeyul feels his jaw clench. He glances at the message, then looks up at Keisha's back. There she is, his guarantee. A stranger in an empty room. If trouble starts outside, it could start here at any moment. Maybe that sound wasn't a coincidence. Maybe it's a signal for her. He faces a choice. He must give Fami the order. Either retreat or press on, despite the obstacle. If he retreats, the deal falls through. Losses, a damaged reputation. If he presses on, it's a risk. A risk based on the belief that his partner's people also want to complete the deal, and on the belief that this woman at the door is truly a neutral guarantor and not part of a trap. He looks at her. She doesn't move. Her posture is a model of composure. She's not trying to peek at the message. She's not trying to pressure him to hurry. She's simply doing what she has to do, guarding the perimeter, watching the door. Her calm in this situation is a resounding fact. If she were part of the deception, she would be nervous right now, or conversely, trying to encourage him to continue. But she just stands there, silently. Her job doesn't depend on his decision. Her job is to protect him, no matter what he decides. It's clear and professional, and this strangely makes Taeyul believe, not her personally, but the situation. Her behavior is the best proof of her role. A highly skilled professional hired by both parties to ensure the integrity of the deal. Her reputation is her currency. If she ruins it, she will no longer be able to work. This simple logic seems more reliable to him than any oaths. He looks at his phone again. His finger hovers over the screen. He's making a decision. He can't back down because of one interruption. He must show strength and determination. And, strangely enough, the presence of this silent woman gives him confidence. As long as she's here, between him and the door, he has time to think and act. He types a short reply to Fami, passing the first one. Proceed as planned. Wait for the next point. He sends the message and puts his phone away. The operation continues. He's made a bet. And part of that bet is the dark-skinned woman standing between him and the unknown, motionless and silent as a rock. Her calm begins to act on him, like a powerful sedative. Panic recedes. What remains is a cool, focused readiness for what will happen. Taeyul sits on the cold concrete ledge by the wall. It's uncomfortable, but standing for the entire transaction isn't an option either. He looks at his phone again. No new messages, no calls, silence. He raises his head and looks at Keisha. She's no longer standing directly in front of the door, but slightly to the side, in the shadows. This gives her a better view of both the door and the window near the ceiling. She slowly turns her head from time to time, scanning the space. Her arms aren't simply hanging at her sides anymore. Her right hand is resting on her waist, near her belt buckle, not aggressively, but at the ready. As she makes another smooth turn, the light from the flashing light falls on her left hand. The sleeve of her jacket is slightly raised, and Taeyul sees it. On the back of her hand, just below the knuckles, runs a thin white line, a scar, old, long-healed. It's not crooked or jagged, as if from an accidental injury. It's almost straight, crisp, as if from a very sharp blade. The scar runs crosswise, crossing two veins. Taeyul's gaze lingers on him. A scar like that isn't from a casual cut. It's the result of a conflict, a direct physical one. He looks at Keisha's calm face, her professional, detached posture. This scar, like a silent page from her past, confirms what he's already realized. This isn't just a hired body. This is someone who's been in dangerous situations and recovered from them. It's both reassuring and alarming. It means she knows what she's doing, but it also means she has experience he can't quite fathom. Suddenly, Keisha stirs. She doesn't turn to face him, but her voice breaks the silence. It's quiet, low, emotionless. Your people, do they report every step? That's her first question. Direct, businesslike, about the process. Taeyul pauses for a second. He didn't expect her to speak first. Only about the key points, he answers after a pause. And about the problems. So, silence is normal now, she states, not asking, but as if making sure. Yes, so far, everything is on schedule. Keisha nods slightly, accepting this information. Her question wasn't out of curiosity. She was building a picture. If there are no alarms from his people, then the interference in the first stage has been eliminated. That means they can proceed with the original plan. She falls silent again, returning to her role as a human scanner. 15 minutes pass. Every minute weighs on me. But this is a different kind of pressure, the anticipation of a new action. And it comes. Taeyul's phone vibrates twice. A new message from Fami. Second point active in 5. Prepare to move. Address follows. Another message comes in with a street name and building number. It's a 3-minute walk away. Old Warehouse District. Sounds familiar? Taeyul stands up, his bones aching from the awkward position. We need to move, he says, looking at Keisha. Close. New place. Keisha completely tears her gaze away from the door and looks at him. She nods appraisingly. You know the way? Yes. Lead the way. I'm behind you and to the left. Don't look back at me. Walk confidently, but not too quickly. Her instructions are as precise as a military man's. She's no longer a guarantee in a trap. She's an operative, responsible for the target's movement. Taeyul, against his nature, used to giving orders, silently agrees. Right now, her expertise is more important. He approaches the door and listens. It's quiet outside. He looks at Keisha. She's already standing against the wall next to the door, ready to go out first. She nods. Taeyul opens the door. It creaks. Before him is a dark, moldy entryway. He steps out. Keisha slips out after him, holding the door shut so it doesn't slam. She's on his left and slightly behind him, just as she said. He feels her presence without seeing her. Left, to the back exit, he says quietly and starts walking. They walk down the hallway. Their footsteps echo loudly in the empty air. Keisha keeps turning her head, checking the dark openings of other doors, the stairs leading up. She looks everywhere except at his back. The back exit is a rusty metal door that leads into a narrow passageway between buildings, littered with old crates. Taeyul pushes the door. It gives way with difficulty, making a loud scraping sound. He pauses for a second, but Keisha doesn't seem bothered. The noise is perhaps better than struggling with silence for a long time. They step out into the passage. It smells of rotting wood and wet brick. Keisha quickly passes him. Now she's ahead. She approaches the exit to the street, peers out for a second, and steps back. The street's empty. Let's go right, quickly, but not running. She lets him go ahead again, taking up a position behind him. Taeyul steps outside. It's evening. Dusk. There are no streetlights here. The only light comes from a few distant windows. The air is cold. He turns right and walks, as she said, with the confident stride of someone who knows the way but isn't in a hurry. He hears her light footsteps behind him, to the left. This 3-minute walk is the most stressful of his entire day. He feels naked outside. Any window, any archway could conceal a threat. His back burns with the thought of exposing it to any bullet that might come from ahead. But her instructions were clear. Don't look back. She controls the rear. He hears her steps shift slightly, sometimes falling behind, sometimes catching up. She's not just walking. She's zigzagging, scanning the space behind and to the side. He hears her turn sharply once, hearing the distant sound of an engine. Then her footsteps behind him again. He sees the building he needs, the same low brick warehouse with peeling paint. The front door appears intact. The door is straight ahead, he says, almost in a whisper. Go to it, her voice responds. Don't stop at the entrance. Go straight in. He approaches the door. It's unlocked. He pushes it open and steps inside. Darkness. A moment later, Keisha's silhouette appears in the doorway. She's the last one in, closing the door, but not all the way, leaving a gap for visibility. She leans against the wall next to the door, her chest heaving with adrenaline, but her expression remains composed. She looks at him and nods. The transition is complete. They're back in the empty room, but this time it's a different emptiness, a different silence. It's filled with the sounds of their recent passage, the ringing in their ears from the strain. They've crossed the open space together, and they've done it as a team, a silent, temporary team, but a team nonetheless. Taeyul looks at Keisha, who's already exploring the new room, searching for a better position. The scar on her arm is hidden by her sleeve, but he knows it's there now, and that knowledge changes something. The new room was slightly larger than the previous one. It was also empty, but in the corner lay a pile of old, dust-covered rags. The air was thick, smelling of machine oil and mold. Taeyul stopped near the entrance, catching her breath. Keisha immediately began working. She walked around the perimeter of the room. Her eyes picked out details in the dim light. Broken brick, a puddle of water under a leaky roof, rodent tracks on the dusty floor. She pauses at the far corner, opposite the entrance. On maze. There, against the gray wall, lies a small object. She doesn't pick it up. She squats down and examines it. It's not a piece of trash. It's a cigarette butt. A specific brand, not the cheapest. The tip is neatly dented, but not torn. Not completely smoked. Keisha stands up, her expression even more focused. Someone was here, she says quietly, but clearly. Recently. An hour. 2 hours ago. Taeyul comes closer, looks at the cigarette butt. A guard? A homeless person? A guard would smoke in one place, at the entrance, or in his booth. He would have come here specifically. A homeless person wouldn't buy something like that. She speaks in facts. This is an observation post. From here you can see both the entrance and the window in the ceiling. She turns, looking at the door they entered through, then at the barred dormer window under the roof. Her conclusion is logical. This corner is the perfect place to hide in the shadows and watch. We're not staying here, Keisha declares. It's not a proposal, it's a decision. The plan has changed. The building needs an attic or a second floor. It'll be safer. One entry point. Taeyul hesitates. Leaving the agreed-upon spot? That could ruin the deal. His people know the address. I need to inform them that we've changed our position inside the building due to a perimeter breach, she interrupts. For the first time, there's a note of pressure in her voice. This isn't a deal-breaker, it's a precaution. If your partner is honest, they'll understand. She's right. If anyone was here, this place is compromised. He takes out his phone to text Fami a quick message about moving inside the facility. But at that moment, the phone vibrates in his hand. A call. Not a message, but a call from Fami. That's a bad sign. Fami only calls in extreme cases. Taeyul lifts the phone to his ear. Talk! Fami's voice on the other end is quick, strained. He speaks for no more than 15 seconds. Taeyul doesn't say a word in response. His face hardens. He simply listens. Then he gives a short, hold your position, and hangs up. He slowly lowers his hand holding the phone. He stares into space, but doesn't see him. Fami's words echo in his head. A third party. They were spotted approaching the second point. Not ours, nor our partner's people. Looks like surveillance. They might know about the overall plan. Be careful. The guarantee may be in question. The warranty may be questionable. The words sear his brain. He slowly raises his head and looks at Keisha. She stands 3 steps away, watching him. She sees the change in his posture, in his eyes. For the first time in this long meeting, a clear, cold thought occurs to Taeyul. What if she's part of this third party? She's been hired. But by whom? Officially, a go-between, used by both sides. But what if the go-between is bought? She's acting like a professional. But professionals work for whoever pays. Her scar, her skills, they prove only her experience, not her loyalty to him. She insisted on changing positions, to the attic, into a trap with a single entry point, and exit. His gaze grows heavy, searching. He no longer sees her as a neutral tool. He sees a possible enemy, silent, effective, who has lured him to an isolated location. What's wrong? Keisha asks calmly. She reads his suspicions on his face. The interference outside has become more severe, Taeyul says evasively. New players have appeared. Which ones? Unknown. He waits for her reaction. Fear? Confession? But her face only hardens. She doesn't deny it, doesn't make excuses. She's analyzing the new threat. Then we have to move. Now, she says. To the attic or out the back. She takes a step toward him, as if to start a movement. But at that moment, a sound comes from outside, from the dark entrance they've just passed. Not a cautious step, but an awkward one. Someone tripped over the same box that Taeyul had almost tripped over, and swore quietly. Keisha freezes. Her eyes dart to the door. Taeyul watches her body tense to the limit. She looks at him. Her gaze isn't defensive now, but questioning. He sees the same suspicion that was just swirling in his head. What if these are his people? What if he lured her in? But the sound repeated itself. Footsteps. One person, careless, unprofessional. Keisha's decision matured in a split second. She couldn't allow the unknown person to be behind them, blocking their exit. Either this was a threat, or it needed to be clarified. With a sharp but quiet movement, she removes her bulky jacket. Beneath it, she wears a thin, dark turtleneck. She tosses the jacket onto the floor in the shadows. And without saying a word to Taeyul, she silently disappears into the darkness of the entryway, vanishing into it like a ghost. Taeyul freezes in place, pressed against the wall. From the darkness, he hears a short, sharp sound. Not a scream, not a gunshot. Something like a dull oof and the sound of a body falling. Then, silence. 30 seconds later, Keisha emerges from the darkness. Her breathing quickens slightly. In her hand is a simple, cheap phone, not hers. She hands it to Taeyul. He's alone, not a professional. He was watching. He only managed to send one message, geotagging this entrance. Her voice is even, but the urgency is clear. They know where we are. They're coming here. She raised her hand to fix her hair, and Taeyul saw that scar again, and a new, fresh abrasion on her knuckles. Proof of her actions. Proof that she had just secured their position, neutralizing the threat outside. She hadn't lured him into a trap. She had destroyed it. His suspicions melt away, replaced by a cold awareness of a new, greater danger. They're trapped, but now they're together against someone else. Taeyul takes the cheap phone from Keisha's hands. The screen is still lit. A message window is open. A single message with the geotag, and the caption, Entrance B, one inside. The other is, the recipient is an unknown number. He looks at Keisha. The adrenaline from her actions still pulsates in his temples, but the cold fear from Fami's words about a third party is stronger. She just proved she doesn't work for those who came from outside. But that doesn't prove she works for him or for the integrity of the deal. Enough, he says, his voice firmer than he expected. Who's behind you, specifically? Not a middleman. Who's paying? Keisha quickly walks over to a pile of rags in the corner and kicks them up. Beneath them is a rusty metal plate, a hatch in the floor or something similar. She doesn't touch it, just checks it. Then she turns to him. Her face remains inscrutable, but a weary understanding dawns in her eyes. The time for complete silence has passed. I was hired by a company, DP, she says curtly, an independent one. Their business is guaranteeing these kinds of operations. Their reputation is impeccable. That's why they're used. What office? What's it called? Taeyul insists. He takes a step toward her. You've never heard of her. And rightly so. Names don't matter. She shakes her head. What matters are the rules. I was paid to follow one rule. As long as you're alive and well until the end of the deal, I get the full amount. If you get hurt, I get nothing. If the deal falls through because of your fault, then the same goes for me. My motivation is simple. I'm more interested in success than anyone here. She says this without pathos, as if reading out a technical specification. And this dry logic contains a monstrous meaning. She is a mercenary, but her pay is tied to a specific, measurable result, to his safety. This is not loyalty. This is pure, honed self-interest. And what if those outside offer more? He throws in her face. Keisha looks at him almost with pity. Then they would have destroyed the firm's reputation forever. The firm is worth more than any one-time deal. I'm its asset. I'm not being sold mid-sale. I'm being used strictly according to the instructions. He wants to ask 100 more questions. Who is the founder? How can he contact them? But he sees this is a dead end. She's given him the maximum amount of information she can. Everything else is her professional secret. And this secret, this set of rules he doesn't understand, is now his only defense. He must accept it or go mad. At that moment, it's not his phone that vibrates quietly. It's the small device Keisha pulls out of her inside trouser pocket. It looks like a pager. She looks at the screen, and her eyes narrow. At the same time, his own phone emits a short, distinctive double beep, a signal that means urgent incoming. He looks at the screen. It's Fami, not a message. A video call. This is unprecedented. Never before. Taeyul accepts the call. Fami's face appears on the screen. It's pale, sweaty. Behind it, you can see not the street, but the ceiling of a moving car. Boss? Fami's voice is hoarse. Everything changes, now. The meeting is rescheduled. To your location. Taeyul feels his blood run cold. What? That's impossible. It's not safe here. There are third parties here. They know! Fami practically shouts, breaking all the rules of subordination. Everyone knows. The partner is furious. He says this is a provocation on your part. He demands that you finish everything now on the spot, before everything collapses. His people are already on the move. They will be with you in 10 minutes, he said. He said, either you close the deal face to face right now, or he thinks you're deceiving him and starts a war. The screen shakes from the car's movement. I'm coming to you too, with everyone I have, Fami forces out. But they're closer. You have 10 minutes to decide. Accept them or... He trails off. The connection breaks. Taeyul stands, clutching the phone in his fingers, white with tension. His world, built on caution and planning, crumbles in a second. The meeting is here, now. In a lair that may already be surrounded by a third party. This is either a brilliant provocation by his partner, designed to catch him off guard, or an act of desperation from someone who also sensed a trap. He looks up at Keisha. She's already looking at him, her pager tucked away. She's heard everything. Her face is a mask of concentration. My employer has confirmed, she says briefly. The deal is activated at this point. My task now is to ensure the process is secure until its logical conclusion, or until it fails. She doesn't ask what he'll decide. She awaits his orders. But her posture speaks for itself. She's already assessing this room not as a shelter, but as a potential meeting place. Her eyes scan for cover, distances, paths to that very hatch in the floor. 10 minutes. In 10 minutes, hell will be boiling here. And she, with her scar and cold eyes, is the only ally he has in this stone box. An ally bought by contract, but no less valuable for that at this precise moment. 10 minutes. Taeyul looks at her phone. Only 4 have passed. The silence outside seems ominous. Keisha doesn't stand still. She moves silently, like a shadow. She checked the metal hatch in the corner. It's rusted shut. No way out. She probed the walls, finding a spot where the brick is crumbling more heavily. She examines every crack. She approaches him. When they come in, stay there. She nods toward a spot by the wall opposite the entrance, half a meter from the pile of rags. Not in the corner. You need to have a clear view and room to maneuver. Don't engage in conversation unless asked directly. Breathe evenly. She speaks as if briefing a client before an important meeting, not before confronting potential enemies. Her calm has a hypnotic effect on him. He simply nods. Suddenly, all distant sounds outside fade away. Then footsteps are heard. Not 2 or 3 people. More. Heavy, confident steps, making no attempt to hide their approach. They are approaching the door. Taeyul takes the indicated position. Keisha stands to his left, but a step ahead. Her hands are free. She looks at the door, and her gaze is no longer scanning, but waiting. Waiting intently. The door swings open, not abruptly, but slowly, with the same creak. A figure appears in the doorway. But it's not his partner, not the Chanin he expected to see. It's a large man in a dark leather jacket. His face is broad, unfamiliar. 2 more are visible behind him. The man steps inside. His eyes instantly find Taeyul. His gaze is hard, assessing, without a hint of respect or recognition. He scans the room, then settles on Keisha. His eyebrows rise slightly. He clearly wasn't expecting to see a woman. 2 more people enter the room behind him. They part ways, not blocking the exit, but taking up positions. They all look like enforcers, not negotiators. Their postures suggest a readiness for sudden movements. Taeyul doesn't see any weapons, but he can discern undesirable outlines beneath their jackets. "Lee Taeyul," the first man says, his voice low, hoarse from cigarettes. Taeyul nods silently. Taeyul asks, breaking his own rule of not speaking first. He needs to understand what's going on. "Chan is waiting. He wants guarantees that everything here is clean," the man says. "We are those guarantees." This isn't going according to plan. Chang was supposed to come himself, with 1 assistant. That was the main condition. Instead, he sent 3 fighters. This is a clear signal of mistrust or preparation for a military solution. Taeyul feels a chill run down his spine. His men are on their way, but they won't make it. He's here alone. No, not alone. He's with Keisha. He glances at her quickly. She stands motionless, her eyes no longer focused on the new arrivals, but somewhere between them, as if she's observing the entire picture. The man steps forward. "Show me the goods," he says to Taeyul. "Show me what you brought for exchange." Taeyul doesn't have the physical goods with him. The deal is based on a digital confirmations and transfers after the meeting. Everyone knew that. "The goods will be transferred after Chan confirms," Taeyul says, trying to keep his voice even. "As agreed." "New agreements," the man retorts. He smiles, but there's no humor in his eyes. "Chan's changed his mind. He wants to see the evidence now. Or we'll find it ourselves." This is a direct threat. One of the people at the door slowly runs his hand over his waist. The situation is spiraling downwards with every passing second. And then Keisha makes a move. Not a sudden one. She simply gently raises her right hand, palm up, as if inviting them to stop. All eyes automatically turn to her. Tae-yul sees her gesture out of the corner of her eye and freezes. Keisha says, her voice is quiet but surprisingly clear. There's no fear or aggression in it. Just a slight weariness, like someone forced to acknowledge an obvious mistake. The man in the leather jacket looks at her with undisguised contempt. Shut up, girl. Adults make arrangements, Keisha continues, ignoring the insult. She takes a small step forward, now completely between Tae-yul and the man. You're here because your boss, Chan, got the wrong information. He thinks a provocation is being prepared here. It's not. A deal is being finalized here, but not with you. She pauses, letting the words sink in. The man remains silent, his face expressing only growing irritation. I'm a representative of the Oversight Council, Keisha says next. It sounds like a title. Respectable and unfamiliar. My job is to ensure that the exchange proceeds according to the original, agreed-upon rules. The rules state, one-on-one meeting, plus one neutral guarantor. That's me. You are in violation of the rules. Your presence here automatically calls into question Mr. Chang's bona fides. Tae-yul listens, motionless. He's figured out her game. She's creating a new reality, introducing a fictitious, yet impressive-sounding authority, the council. She's not defending him. She's defending the procedure, and it's brilliant. It shifts the conflict from Tae-yul versus Chan to the perpetrators versus the system. The man frowns. What advice? Chan didn't say anything. Of course, Keisha retorts. This is top-level confidential information. Your boss probably thought it was a bluff. He took a risk by sending you. Now your visit forces me to add a note to the transaction report regarding unauthorized forceful presence on the part of Mr. Chan. This will entail sanctions from the council, including a complete halt to all operations on his territory. She says this so confidently, so matter-of-factly, that for a moment Tae-yul doubts. What if such a council really exists? The man's eyes flash first with anger, then a moment of uncertainty. He's a soldier. He was told to go and check. He wasn't told anything about supervisory councils. I have orders, he says, but his previous ironclad confidence is gone. Your orders are based on faulty data, Keisha insists softly but irresistibly. I'll contact my superiors now and relay the breach code. After that, the deal will be frozen, and Mr. Chang will receive an official request. Do you want to be the one who caused this to happen? She doesn't take out her phone. She simply keeps her hand near her pocket, looking at him. Her gaze says, come on, decide. Either you leave and everything goes according to plan, or you become the cause of enormous problems for your master. A heavy silence falls over the room. The man looks at Keisha, then at Tae-yul, who maintains a stony face, then turns his gaze to his men. He's clearly unprepared for this turn of events. His mission was to intimidate or capture, not to engage in diplomatic negotiations with a mysterious woman from some council. He mutters something unintelligible under his breath, then gives a barely perceptible nod to his men. Wait, he tells Keisha. I'll contact the boss. You have 3 minutes, Keisha says, glancing at the non-existent watch on her wrist. After that, I'll follow protocol. The man turns and walks out into the entryway, taking out his phone. The other two remain in the doorway, but their postures are no longer as aggressive. They look at Keisha with undisguised curiosity and apprehension. Tae-yul doesn't move. He understands that Keisha has just bought them precious time and perhaps seized the initiative. But her bluff hangs by a thread. If Chan says, I don't know any advice, or if these three decide she's lying, it will all be over in the next second. He looks at her profile. She breathes evenly, watching the people at the door. She doesn't look at him, but her entire being radiates a single command. Be quiet, hold on. As long as I lead, you're safe. And he, Lee Tae-yul, who is used to controlling everyone, obeys unquestioningly for the first time in his life. The man in the leather jacket left, slamming the door. His 2 men remained in the room. They kept their eyes on Keisha. One, younger, was constantly shifting from foot to foot. The other, older, with short gray hair, stood motionless, but his gaze was searching, professional. He looked at Keisha, not as a strange woman, but as a potential adversary. He noticed her stance, the position of her hands, her complete composure. Tae-yul is sensitive to every second, Where are his people? Fami said, 10 minutes. How long has it been? 6? 7? He doesn't dare look at his phone. Any movement could be perceived as a threat. Keisha breaks the silence. She addresses the eldest of the remaining men. Have you been in situations like this before? Her voice is almost neutral, as if she's asking about the weather. The gray-haired man narrows his eyes slightly. What situations? He answers with a question. When envoys exceed their authority and jeopardize the entire operation, Keisha says clearly. When a simple order to check turns into provoke, it's unpleasant, especially when you have to write the report afterwards. She speaks to him in his own language, the language of a soldier who hates paperwork and the consequences of others' mistakes. The young man looks at his partner, searching for a clue. The gray-haired man remains silent, but his gaze becomes slightly less hostile. He doesn't agree, but he listens. Muffled but sharp voices can be heard behind the door. The same man is clearly talking on the phone. Snippets of, she claims. Some advice? I don't know, boss, can be heard. The voice sounds increasingly irritated and uncertain. Apparently, Chan on the other end of the line isn't thrilled about the news about the oversight board and is demanding an explanation. Keisha takes advantage of the pause. She doesn't address Taeyul, but speaks as if stating the facts for everyone present. The standard protocol in such cases is to call off the unauthorized group and reconvene the meeting as a one-on-one within 5 minutes. Otherwise, the deal is canceled and marked failed due to Party B. It's automatic. She pauses briefly. Mr. Chang, I'm sure you're familiar with the consequences of such a mark in the register. She's going all in. She's creating an entire mythical world. Protocols, registries, automated tags. And she does it with such confidence that even Taeyul briefly wonders, what if this mercenary really does have access to some mysterious criminal underworld databases? But no, he pushes the thought away. It's pure bluff, but a brilliant bluff. She uses pressure not through force, but through bureaucracy, through fear of unknown systems. The door opens again. The man in the leather jacket returns. His face is grim. He walks in and looks straight at Keisha. The boss says he doesn't know any advice. That this is a provocation. Taeyul's heart skips a beat. That's it. The bluff is called. Now the worst is about to begin. But Keisha doesn't even flinch. Of course he doesn't know, she says, as if she'd expected exactly that. The council doesn't advertise its methods. He only knows the accreditation code, which was transmitted to him via a secure channel when the guarantee was approved. He didn't use it for verification. That's his problem. She's shifting the blame again. Not, I'm lying, but, your boss was unprofessional. The man is clearly at a loss. He's been told Chan's anger, but not given clear new instructions to take it or leave it. This woman, however, speaks with unwavering confidence. What's the code? He asks hoarsely. An 8-digit alphanumeric code, Keisha replies immediately. It's transmitted once. If your boss didn't write it down or didn't give it to you for verification, that's a violation of procedure on their part. She creates an insurmountable dilemma for them. They can't check the code. They can't call Chan and say, hey boss, did you happen to forget the magic code for some secret organization? That would make them look like idiots, or it would make Chan look like an idiot. Neither option works for them. At that very moment, a new sound came from outside, from the street. Not one, but several car engines. They pulled up quickly and braked sharply. 2, 3 doors slammed. Then quick, determined footsteps on the asphalt. Everyone in the room freezes, listening. The face of the man in the leather jacket distorts with a sudden understanding and anger. He understands that these are not his reinforcements. His people are already here. Taeyul feels a warm wave of relief course through his veins. These are his people. Fami made it. He looks at Keisha. Without turning her head, she nods very slowly, almost imperceptibly. Her plan had worked. She had bought them those critical minutes. Footsteps approach the door. They are firm, numerous. The door swings open completely without a creak. Fami stands in the doorway. He is short, stocky, his usually impassive face now tense. Behind him, 3 more strong men are visible. They don't enter, blocking the exit. Fami takes in the room with a single glance. Taeyul against the wall, the unfamiliar woman in front of him, the 3 strangers. His eyes settle on the man in the leather jacket. Problems? Fami asks curtly, addressing Taeyul, but his gaze is fixed on the strangers. The situation instantly shifts. It's no longer 3 against 1 and women. It's now 3 against 5 at least. And who else is out there? A momentary reassessment of the situation is evident on the faces of Chan's men. The gray-haired man puts his foot back slightly, gaining a more stable stance. The young man involuntarily takes a step back toward the wall. The man in the leather jacket turns to Taeyul, ignoring Fami. Is that your answer? Summoning your puppies? It's to ensure my safety, Taeyul says coldly. His voice has returned. Now he's the boss again. Because you and your people refuse to follow the original terms. You're not here as a guest. You're here as an uninvited guest. He pauses, letting the words sink in. Tell Chan. He has two options. First, he comes here himself, alone, within the next 10 minutes, and will finish what we started as agreed. Second, he can start his war right now. Taeyul jerks his chin at Fami and his men in the doorway. But it starts here, with you. A deathly silence falls over the room. The pressure no longer comes from the fictitious council, but from real, brutal force, which is now on Taeyul's side. Keisha watches this from her seat. Her role as guarantor in the power struggle is over. Now, everything is decided by the balance of power. The man in the leather jacket looks at Taeyul, then at Fami's impassive face, then at his men. He realizes the moment for action has passed. Any move now would be suicidal. His mission has failed. He nods sharply, almost jerkily, to his men. Let's go, he says through clenched teeth. He walks toward the exit, and Fami and his men silently part to let him pass, but their gazes are like blades. The gray-haired man and the young man quickly follow him. A moment later, their footsteps are heard fading down the alley, and then the cars drive away. Fami enters the room, his men remaining outside, closing the door. Boss, is everything okay? He asks, looking closely at Taeyul. For now, yes, Taeyul says. He feels a strange emptiness after the adrenaline. He looks at Keisha. Thank you. You bought us some time. Keisha accepts the thanks with a simple nod. That's my job. But it's not over. If Chan wants a deal, he'll come, and soon. His men will report our advantage. I know, Taeyul says. He turns to Fami. Get ready. He'll come. Alone. Make sure he does. Fami nods and moves to the door to give orders. Taeyul remains in the room with Keisha. They're no longer just the boss and the guarantor. They're a team that's just passed its first test of strength. He looks at her. She's already scanning the room again, as if the tense standoff never happened. The supervisory board? He asks quietly, a hint of something almost like a smile in his voice. It worked, she says simply, shrugging. Sometimes it takes big words to shut big mouths. Outside, the sound of another car approaching. A lone one. It slows to a stop. A door slams. Slow, heavy footsteps approach their shelter. This time, the footsteps of a single person. Footsteps approach the door. Slow, heavy. One person. Taeyul and Keisha look at the door. Fami stands frozen against the wall, his hand under his jacket. Keisha smoothly moves away from Taeyul, taking up a position to the left and slightly behind, as at the very beginning. But now it's not just a formality. Now it's a well-oiled interaction. The door opens. Chan stands in the doorway. He's short, stocky, his face a massive, unmoving mask. He's alone. His eyes, small and piercing, instantly find Taeyul. He notices Fami against the wall, Keisha. His gaze glides over her disinterestedly, as if she were furniture. He enters and stops 2 meters from Taeyul. Lee, Chan says. His voice is creaky, like an unoiled door. Chan, Taeyul nods. Your people have polluted the air. My people reported a provocation, Chan snaps. He doesn't apologize. He simply states, about some woman and fairy tales about the Soviets. Now his gaze lingers on Keisha. He studies her. He sees what Taeyul saw at first. Professionalism, cool composure. His gaze lingers on her hands, on her stance. Is that a guarantee? He asks Taeyul. But he looks at her. It's a guarantee, Taeyul confirms. The only reason your clowns haven't started shooting here. Chan nods silently. He seems to accept this fact. His men reported that it wasn't just Taeyul here, that there was a force that stopped them. That force was a woman. For Chan, it doesn't matter. What matters is the result. His men have retreated. He's here. The deal can be made. We don't have much time, Chan says. It won't be safe here after this circus. Have you received confirmation? Taeyul nods. He takes out his phone and shows the screen. There's a series of encrypted messages, the last one saying, ready for the finale. Chan slowly, as if reluctantly, takes out his phone. He shows Taeyul the screen. There's a similar chain with a different key. They stand and look at each other's phones. A moment of silence. It's a formality, but crucial. Each checks that the other has actually completed their part of the digital work. Fami watches the door and the window. Keisha watches Chan. Her gaze is analytical. She studies his micro-movements, the tension in his shoulders, his gaze. Chan is the first to lower the phone. All clear. Finish? Finish, says Taeyul. They both simultaneously enter the final codes on their phones. This is the final command. Taeyul sends his man the order to transfer the last, largest installment of the payment. Chan does the same. They look at their screens again, waiting for confirmation. These 3 minutes of waiting are the longest. The deal hangs by a thread. If someone screws him now, if there's a glitch somewhere in the chain, Taeyul feels a bead of sweat trickle down his back. Chan is motionless, like a statue. Only his eyes flicker across the screen. Taeyul's phone. A check mark. It's all over. He exhales slowly. Almost simultaneously, a similar icon appears on Chan's screen. He looks at it, then looks up at Taeyul. He nods, once, sharply. Done, Chan croaks. Done, Taeyul echoes. The deal is done. The numbers have been transferred, the obligations fulfilled. They are no longer partners. They are simply players on the same board again, who could become enemies at any moment. Chan doesn't leave right away. He looks at Keisha again. Is your work done, guarantor? He asks her directly. My work ends when Mr. L leaves this location safely, Keisha answers clearly. Her tone leaves no doubt. Chan snorts, something like a short, silent laugh. Good hire. He throws the compliment away like a bone and turns to Taeyul. That's enough for today. Don't challenge my patience anymore. He doesn't say goodbye. He turns and walks out with the same slow, heavy steps. The door closes behind him. A few seconds later, you can hear his car starting up and driving away. Silence reigns in the room. This time not tense, but empty, like after a hurricane. Fami goes out into the entryway, giving quiet commands to his men, organizing cover for the exit. Taeyul stands, staring at the closed door. It's over. He did it. At great risk, with strangers on the horizon. But he did it. He sinks onto the box that had served as his chair before. Fatigue washes over him like a wave. He looks at Keisha. She takes out her small pager and looks at the screen. Apparently, she's getting confirmation from her employers that the terms of the contract have been fulfilled. She puts the device back in her pocket. Are your people ready? She asks him. Her voice is still businesslike. Yes. We'll be moving in a minute. Okay, I'll escort you to your transport. After that, my mission is complete. Taeyul nods. He wants to say something, thank her again, ask how she came up with this bluff about the advice, ask about the scar. But words won't come. She's a mercenary. Her job is done. Any conversation is beyond the scope of the contract. Femi returns. The cars are waiting 100 meters away, in the alley. The way is clear. We can go. Taeyul stands up. He straightens his jacket, blows dust off his shoulder. He is L and Taeyul again, the boss. But inside, something has changed. They exit. Keisha walks to the left and behind, as she came. Fami leads the way, holding a flashlight, illuminating the dark entryway. It's night outside. The cold air hits your face. 2 black cars are waiting in the alley. Taeyul's men are standing next to them. Taeyul approaches the first car. His driver is already holding the door open. He turns around. Keisha is standing 3 steps away. She doesn't come any closer. Her work is done within those 3 steps. They look at each other for a few seconds. A street lamp somewhere in the distance illuminates her face. It's tired, but calm. Taeyul sees in her eyes the same thing he saw the first time, a cold assessment, a professional finality, no personal connection. It was work, just work. Good luck, says Taeyul. That's all he can afford to say. Good health, Keisha answers neutrally. It's the standard wish in their world. Not happily ever after, not goodbye. Good health, to live, to keep working. He nods. He turns and gets into the car. The door closes. Through the tinted glass, he sees her turn and walk away. Not toward the cars, not toward her people, whom he never saw. She simply walks off into the darkness of the alley in the opposite direction, disappearing into the night as silently as she appeared. Fami sits down next to him. An interesting woman, he says, looking in the direction she disappeared. Yes, Taeyul answers curtly. He looks out the window at the flickering lights of the city. The deal is done. The money is in the accounts. Power is consolidated. But in his head, instead of triumph, there is a strange, heavy clarity. He saw a different profession today. Just as ruthless as his own, but existing by its own laws, incomprehensible to him. Laws where your life is currency, and your reputation is your only capital. Home, boss? The driver asks. Home, says Tae-yul. The car starts moving, pulling out onto the illuminated street. Tae-yul leans back in the seat and closes his eyes. An image appears before him, a straight back, a white scar on the dark skin of her arm, and perfectly calm eyes, staring at the approaching danger. He doesn't really know her name. He doesn't know where she lives, but he knows that today his life depended on her composure. And he will carry this knowledge with him, just as she, perhaps, will carry the memory of this day with her, not as a meeting with a person, but as a successfully completed contract. This is their reality. The black car dissolves into the city's night traffic, carrying one professional away. The other has already disappeared into the shadows, his work completed. The car moves slowly through the city at night. Tae-yul sits in the back seat, his eyes closed, but awake. Images of the day flash behind his eyelids. An empty room, a flickering light, Keisha's appearance, her back closing the door, a white scar on her arm. Fami sits silently next to him, periodically giving quiet instructions to the driver through the intercom. The air in the cabin smells of leather and expensive air purifier. Complete silence, broken only by the soft hum of the engine. They arrive at a nondescript building in the business district. The car pulls into an underground garage. Elevator, keycard, another elevator. Tae-yul finds himself in his office. It's a large room with panoramic windows, but the curtains are now tightly drawn. Everything is in perfect order. His world, controlled, predictable. He takes off his jacket and hangs it over the back of the chair. He sits down at the table. Several folders are already on it, but he doesn't touch them. He looks at his hands. Clean, well-groomed, not a single scar. He was always cautious. His dangers were of a different kind. Financial, strategic, negotiations. Not a physical confrontation in an empty room with three strangers. Fami enters without knocking, places a glass of water and a tablet with preliminary reports on the completed deal in front of him. The numbers match. Everything went smoothly, despite the interference. The third party has disappeared, Fami quietly says. As quickly as they appeared, they vanished. Looks like they were scared off by our reinforcements and Chan's visit. No traces left. Tae-yul nods. That's good. But the question remains. Who? Competitors? Services? He pushes the thought away. That's work for tomorrow. And her? He can't help but ask. Fami understands who he's talking about. Disappeared. My men tried to follow her discreetly as she went into the alley. She turned the corner and vanished, as if she had disappeared into thin air. A professional. Tae-yul nods again. He expected it. He takes a sip of water. It's cold, burns his throat. It clears his thoughts. The company that hired her, he begins. I'm already making inquiries, Fami says quickly. But this is a deep background. If they want to remain in the shadows, we won't find anything. And if we start digging too hard, it could be perceived as a lack of trust, as a violation of the rules of the game. Tae-yul looks at him. Fami is right. He bought the service. The service is rendered. Poking around in the supplier's kitchen now is bad form and potentially dangerous. He waves it off. Forget it. Just be aware if this company comes up again in any contexts. Okay, boss. Fami leaves, leaving him alone. Tae-yul leans back in his chair. He's bone-deep tired. But inside, there's none of the usual satisfaction after a successful deal. There's emptiness and a strange, unfamiliar feeling of vulnerability. Today, his life literally depended on the composure and resourcefulness of a strange woman. On her ability to lie with a straight face, he, Lee Tae-yul, who always calculated everything, found himself in a situation where his guarantor's bluff was his trump card. He stands up, goes to the bar, and pours himself some strong alcohol. He doesn't mix it. He drinks it in one gulp. Fire spreads across his chest. He looks at his reflection in the dark glass of the window. He has it all. Power, money, control. But today he saw a different hierarchy. A hierarchy of survival skills at a specific moment. And in this hierarchy, he wasn't at the top. He was an asset that needed to be protected. Keisha walks through the city at night. She swapped her jacket for a long dark coat and put on a hat. She walks leisurely, like a tired office worker. She goes into a 24-hour pharmacy, buys a Band-Aid, a small pack of painkillers, and a bottle of water. Her movements are slow, slightly constrained. The adrenaline has long since worn off, and her body is beginning to feel the blow she dealt that guy in the entryway. The bones in her hand are burning. She enters a cheap but clean motel on the outskirts. She has a key card. The room is small and impersonal. She locks the door, puts the chain on, and places her bag on the table. First, she goes to the window, pulls back the curtain, and looks out at the parking lot and the entrance. All is quiet. Only then does she allow herself to relax. She takes off her coat and sits on the edge of the bed. She takes out her small, heavily fortified phone, not a pager. She enters a long code. An interface appears on the screen. She sends 2 messages. The first is the code, mission complete, asset secure, contract fulfilled. The second is a short report without emotion. Situation, premises, a compromised prior to arrival, traces of unauthorized surveillance detected, decision made to change position to premises B, surveillance detected during asset movement, 1 subject, low level, threat neutralized, surveillance removed, an unauthorized group, 3 subjects, mid-level, from party B arrived at point B. De-escalation tactic by introducing a fictitious supervisory authority was used. It worked. The group retreated. A meeting of the parties took place in a 1+1 format. Financial exchange completed. The asset was handed over to its escort group. My obligations fulfilled. She sends the report and puts her phone down. A minute later, a reply arrives. 1 word. Confirmed. Payment within the hour. Expect a new briefing in 48 hours. Relax. Keisha exhales. She gets up, goes to the bathroom, and turns on the light. The bright light catches her tired face in the mirror. She examines the knuckle on her right hand. Red, ready to bruise. Nothing serious. She washes her face with ice water. Then she looks at her reflection. Who does she see? A tool. Efficient, well-oiled. Today was a difficult job. She had to improvise. Oversight Council. That was a risky improvisation, but it worked because it was delivered with absolute faith. This is her greatest skill, not just acting, but becoming the role that must be played for the mission to succeed. She thinks about Taeol, Lee Taeol, cold, controlling, smart. He held himself well. He didn't panic. He followed her instructions when necessary. A rare quality for people of his stature. They're usually too fond of being in charge, even when it's mortally dangerous. He understood when to trust. It saved them time, and possibly their lives. But she doesn't dwell on these thoughts. He's a former asset. The contract is closed. His face, his name, are now just a line in an archive. She leaves the bathroom, takes a simple container of food from her bag, and heats it up in the microwave. She eats standing by the window, once again watching the street. The actions are automatic. Self-care is part of the job. She needs to be in shape for the next assignment. After eating, she lies down, but doesn't fall asleep right away. Lying in the dark, she remembers not Taeol, but the gray-haired man from Chan's group. He looked at her like a colleague, recognized a professional. His gaze held not contempt, but assessment, and perhaps a warning. Their paths might cross again, but on opposite sides. She remembers this. The faces of enemies or potential adversaries are more important than the faces of clients. She falls into a quick, light sleep, the sleep of a soldier who is always ready to wake up at any sound. The next morning, Tae-yul holds a meeting. Everything is as usual. Numbers, reports, plans for the next quarters. He asks questions, his tone customarily dry and decisive. No one notices anything unusual, but he finds himself looking at his new head of security, a huge man with a bulldog neck, as he reports on new measures. Rough, strong. But would they be as fast and resourceful as that woman's hands? Could this man, with his bare hands, in a single movement and bluff, stop 3 armed men? He pushes these thoughts aside. This is not his world. His world is here, at this table. That afternoon, he signs a bonus order for the team that worked on the deal. Fami receives the largest bonus. The order contains the standard words, for demonstrated endurance, professionalism, and achieving results under difficult circumstances. Tae-yul pauses for a moment before signing. For the first time, these words took on a concrete, physical meaning. Endurance is standing in an empty room, listening to the silence. Professionalism is the ability to transform into a representative of a non-existent council. The result is life. In the evening, he's alone. He doesn't turn on the television. He sits in silence. And finally, he allows himself to analyze everything that happened, not as a boss, but simply as someone who's been through an extreme situation. He realizes he's encountered the perfect machine. Keisha was the perfect machine for one task. He admires this. And at the same time, this admiration frightens him because such a machine can't be bought forever. It can only be rented for a while, and he never knows what kind of machine he might encounter next. He approaches the safe and enters the code. He pulls out not financial reports, but an old, unremarkable notebook. He rarely uses it. He opens it, takes out a pen, and jots down a few short, abrupt phrases. Not names, not places, but principles he saw in action today. Control is an illusion when you're in someone else's territory. The strongest argument is not force, but a convincing legend. Trust is a matter of proper motivation. Find the person's motivation. Skill matters. He closes the notebook and puts it away. This isn't for business plans. This is for him. A reminder that the world is wider and more dangerous than his office with panoramic windows. 2 days later, Keisha receives a new brief, a new city, a new name for her, a new asset to protect. Threat type, information espionage. Physical confrontation is unlikely. She reads the dossier, memorizes the details, deletes the file. She packs her bag. Everything is the same. Simple, comfortable clothes, a first aid kit, a set of tools. She looks in the mirror. Her face is calm. The fatigue has gone. The bruise on her arm has almost faded, leaving a yellow spot. It will soon disappear, as will the memory of that deal. Only the conclusions entered into an internal checklist will remain. The tactic with the supervisory authority worked. It can be used in the future, but with caution. Clients like Elle and Taeyul are predictable and manageable, which makes the job easier. She leaves the room, hands over the keycard. She takes a pre-booked taxi to the train station. She looks out the window at the waking city. She doesn't think about yesterday. She thinks about today, about a new assignment, about how best to immerse herself in a new legend. She is a guarantor, a tool, a machine for closing deals. And there is a purity and a peace in this. She disappears into the morning crowd, like water dissolving in water. She is gone. There is only work to be done.